Welcome to this presentation on intervention procedures for supporting multilingual learners that are experiencing challenges in the general education setting. This brief session is intended for school personnel and educators that are part of a multi-tiered system of support or response to intervention team working with multilingual learners. I am Melissa Franz, a Teacher Leader Fellow for 2024-2025, focusing on multilingual learners with disabilities. This session will review the intervention procedures detailed in the Maine Department of Education's Multilingual Learners with Disabilities Policy and Resource Guide, and explore resources for implementing an effective problem-solving process for when a multilingual learner is suspected of having a disability. The Policy and Resource Guide was created in response to the needs of the field and authored through a cross-team collaboration between ESOL and bilingual programs and the Office of Student Supports and Inclusive Education. To learn more about the Policy and Resource Guide, visit the Maine Department of Education website and YouTube channel. Educators face ongoing challenges in distinguishing a learning disability from the typical challenges of learning a second language. Enacting arbitrary timelines and wait-and-see policies violates the child find provision and civil rights guidance for supporting multilingual learners suspected of having a disability. Child find is a provision in the Individuals with Disabilities Act. It states all children with disabilities must be identified and evaluated to determine what special education and related services they need. The exclusionary clause is a special rule for eligibility determination that states a child cannot be determined eligible for special education services if the determinant factor for such a determination is a lack of appropriate instruction in reading, a lack of appropriate instruction in math, or limited English proficiency. Because educators must rule out English proficiency as a determining factor for a child's learning difficulties, the Department of Justice and the Office of Civil Rights reportedly often finds an impermissible delay of assessment based on multilingual status and/or language proficiency level. The Office of English Language Acquisition under the Federal Department of Education has created the English Learner Toolkit to help state and local education agencies fulfill legal obligations to English learners. In Maine, we use the term multilingual learner, replacing English learner, and recognizing and celebrating linguistic and cultural assets through asset-based terminology. Chapter 6 of the toolkit provides tools and resources for addressing multilingual learners with disabilities. A key component to quality multi-tier system of support framework is a usable problem-solving process that is routine, consistent, and objective. Effective problem-solving processes incorporate data collection, data analysis, and action planning to learn more about the multi-tier systems of support. Go to the Maine Department of Education website. On pages 7 to 8 of the Policy and Resource Guide, you'll find a list of these questions that should be examined and responded to before a referral for a special education evaluation is made. When a student is struggling or exhibiting concerns, the initial question should focus on the instructional environment and school structures as a starting point for problem solving. For students who are multilingual learners, linguistic and cultural factors must be considered at each step throughout the process as teams analyze and interpret school performance in view of their unique backgrounds. For a companion checklist to these questions, visit the Maine Department of Education's website for multilingual learners with disabilities. The intervention procedures flowchart outlines steps along the intervention continuum intended to reduce inappropriate referrals of multilingual learners for special education and related services. Multilingual learners are entitled to equitable and meaningful access to academic and extracurricular programs similar to their non-multilingual peers. This should be outlined in your district's LAU plan. It's important to note that interventions are in addition to and not replacing English language development programming. You can find the flowchart in the Policy and Resource Guide on page 9 and read more in-depth information about the steps, detailed on pages 10 through 16. According to the National Center for Learning Disabilities, as a school team moves through the intervention continuum, they should consider student data as compared to true peers. True peers are students who have similar language proficiency, cultural, and experiential backgrounds. If a student with a suspected disability demonstrates sufficient progress compared to true peers, that may indicate a need for improvements in the instructional program. It may be necessary to evaluate the program, provide professional development, and engage faculty in targeted support and coaching. However, if the student demonstrates challenges in learning that are not similar to those of true peers, intervention and monitoring should be implemented in order to gather further data. The multi-tiered system of support and response to intervention checklist for multilingual learners in distinguishing language difference from disability is adapted from Portland Public Schools. The checklist can help teams through the data collection, analysis, and decision-making process to address the extrinsic factors that may be impacting a student's language acquisition and/or academic growth. It can also help determine if additional supports and/or a referral to special education is needed. It focuses on the areas of education and achievement, language proficiency and developmental history, and adaptation and behavior. It provides guiding questions in each section to help develop a student profile capturing strengths, funds of knowledge, and linguistic and cultural assets in order to better understand the student, guide instruction, and design strategies to support their learning. The checklist can be found on the Maine Department of Education's website for multilingual learners with disabilities. Here are some additional resources and contact information if you would like to collaborate and learn more about multilingual learners with disabilities. You can find the Maine Department of Education online at the following places. Thank you and have a good day.